My boyfriend almost ruined our best friend's wedding by spontaneously proposing to me in the middle of the reception, but I stopped him in time, and ever since then, he's been stonewalling me and claiming that I don't truly love him because I turned down his proposal. I, 26F, and my boyfriend, 25M, attended a mutual friend's wedding. They're very close friends of ours and were the ones who brought my boyfriend and me together. My boyfriend and I are coming up on our 3-year anniversary, and things were getting pretty serious enough that I very much wanted to marry him. He's sweet, chatty, typically considerate, and empathetic. He's the person who I thought was the first to show me what a truly healthy and compassionate relationship was like. He's very serious about us, too. We've had long talks about marriage, and it seemed we were in agreement, even without a formal declaration. We had even gotten as far as looking at rings. So the chance of a proposal was more a matter of when, not if. A few weeks before the wedding, we were hanging out with the engaged couple. The topic of weddings came up a lot, and my boyfriend cracked a joke about proposing at our friend's wedding. The groom-to-be joked back and said, "That'd be funny as hell." This was followed by the bride-to-be and me both shutting it down, trying to be serious, but also not really thinking he was serious. He was absolutely serious. During the reception, after everyone had made their speeches and people were getting their food, while our table was still waiting, my boyfriend went up to the DJ. After that, they played my boyfriend's and my favorite song to sing in the car together, Story of My Life by One Direction. I looked at him, smiling, and he was looking around. All of a sudden, he grabbed a fork, stood up, and began clanging on a glass. Immediately, the whole dining room looked over. I stood up and whispered the words, "Not right now." His face dropped, and he yelled something like, "I'm sorry, I was just joking." After he sat back down, I said verbatim, "Let them have their moment. Let's make this our own." He wouldn't even look at me. When it was time to get our food, he immediately headed toward the exit. I followed and tried to catch up to him but couldn't find him. I texted him twice and called him a couple of times but got no answer, so I went back to the reception. After not hearing from him for about an hour and a half, he returned, sat down, and didn't even look at me. The rest of the night was terrible. He looked like his dog had just died, and I tried to make the best of the night, but I felt like I was just in his shadow. I was prepping for a breakdown or maybe a fight in the car, but the only thing he said was, "I don't want to talk about it right now." The drive was just quiet and awkward. He later sent me a long text about how hard it was to get the ring, how he felt rejected by the person closest to him, and that I embarrassed him. I tried to explain that it's not that I didn't want to marry him. It was our best friend's wedding, and they deserved their moment. That we should create our own and not piggyback off theirs. He got offended and said that if I wanted to marry him, I wouldn't have stopped his proposal in front of everybody. This situation perplexes me. I've never seen the appeal of proposing at someone else's wedding and tried to handle the situation in a way that I felt was calm and chill. But he's very adamant that I ruined the proposal, made him look like a jerk, and thus I'm the jerk. Am I missing something? Should I admit I was wrong and have just let his proposal go at our friend's wedding? /relevant comments. Commenter. The bride-to-be is one of your best friends and was not okay with your man proposing at her wedding. Who cares if the groom thinks it would be funny? This is a 2 yes type situation from the married couple. Commenter 2. It was in bad taste for him to propose at the wedding. It would have been unfair to the bride and groom, not to mention tacky. He needs to get over it and move on. Out of all the possible scenarios to propose, he chose the worst option. You did the right thing by stopping him. No one knew he was going to propose, so he shouldn't feel embarrassed. Ops response. I did try to tell him that. Our friends, the literal hosts, weren't even that mad after I explained the situation. They just said thank you for stopping him, and no one else really said anything about it. Commenter 3. Girl, I noticed you are ignoring the comments telling you that this is a bigger red flag than you think because you want to stay positive and think the best of him, but those people are not wrong. The wording in some of these replies can seem harsh, but that's not because they are all anti-relationships or anti-men. It's because, unfortunately, some of us have lived long enough to see how the story ends with guys like this who, in the dating phase, ignore your discomfort, do not respect your desires even after you flat out said no about something important, act like big milestones like a proposal are only about them and what they want, because everybody else they hurt by acting selfishly should just get over it, and give you the silent treatment, stonewall you, or blame you when you stand up for what's right. This behavior will only get worse after marriage. I know you're young, so you think you know him better than some internet randos, but if you ignore this now, you will only end up paying a bigger price later. Ops response. I haven't responded to them yet, however, they aren't being taken lightly. I'm using this time to really evaluate what I want, seeing if I notice any patterns or behaviors that align with what people are saying. His reaction here is really telling of how he may react in the future, and it's something that is really bothering me. Since we've been together, we've had really communicative fights, but nothing ever this big. I do want to give him time to process and see how this is approached once things have had time to settle. If he doesn't reach out in the next day, I'll reach out to him. Regardless of how he approaches it, I do see that I'm not the one at fault here. I do expect an apology, and I do expect that he addresses what happened and doesn't dodge it. I was really hurt when he came back and ignored me for the rest of the time we were there. I wanted to dance, I wanted to have fun. He was caught up in his feelings over something no one seemed to care much about. Please know I am not ignoring this out of a lack of awareness of the bigger picture. I'm hurting and analyzing. This is also almost 3 years I've committed, where the only red flag to me was that he plays Yuumi in League of Legends. I don't want to just toss our time and future in the trash over a very poorly timed mistake. Update 2 days later. Hi all, this is an update from a post I made 2 days ago. I responded to a few comments, but before proceeding with our convo, I read almost every comment, hoping to gain new perspectives and see the situation I presented from a different light. After I got home from the wedding, my boyfriend and I texted back and forth. After he went to bed, I made my Reddit post because I absolutely felt like a jerk. I was second-guessing everything and thought the night would have gone better if I had just let him do his thing. After seeing the responses to my post, I'm more solidified in believing that I made the right decision. Yes, the night was ruined, but I'd be more comfortable with my life moving forward. I gave my boyfriend and myself a day to think about this and come back with clearer heads. That was yesterday. I took a lot of people's advice and tried to reflect on whether this behavior was a grand showing of any smaller pattern. The stonewalling isn't super new. In fights at the start of our relationship, he would get quiet and make a small show of secluding himself. I'd counter this by giving my boyfriend his space and telling him that, moving forward, he should just say he didn't have the words to talk about it, and we could reconvene when we were ready to talk. This worked for us. It gave him time to choose his words, and we'd have a good discussion of what went wrong and how we could fix it moving forward. I didn't think that he was overtly trying to make me feel worse by the silent treatment back then. However, ignoring me for the rest of our time at the wedding hurt so much. Not even saying, I just need space right now, and rejecting my attempt to hold his hand by pulling away felt like he was pseudo-counter rejecting me. This was a first. I felt like he was trying to make me feel worse through his lack of communication. That's all I noticed. I've had a partner be verbally abusive to me before and another who wasn't willing to talk about things they did wrong, refusing to take any blame. My boyfriend hasn't done any of that. I'm not saying I recognize all patterns of abuse, but I'd say I'm versed in a few. There's also been no real history of me catering to him constantly, as others were asking. If either person had strong feelings one way or another in different scenarios, we'd often be fine with that person getting their way. Otherwise, if we both didn't care all that much, he loves to use a wheel-spinning website to make decisions, and I think it's cute. We met earlier today. He came over and we sat in my living room. He broke down instantly. He vehemently apologized and said he felt like a jerk. He said he had been reflecting all of yesterday and talking to his dad about the situation. His dad got mad at him and talked him off his ego crash. His words, not mine. He had already sent a message to our friends, now flying to their honeymoon in Western Europe, apologizing for making their most important day about him and for not properly celebrating them. I asked why he neglected our conversation from months before. He said that the groom and their group of friends had egged him on in private since, not to propose at the wedding, but to do it soon. He didn't originally plan on doing it at the wedding. He's had the ring with him for about a month, never had any real plan, and wanted it to just be spontaneous. He told me he got caught up in the atmosphere of the wedding, saw his best friend with his girl, and couldn't stop picturing us in the same scenario. His urge overran his common sense, in his terms, and he made a choice he ultimately wishes he could take back. It very much spiraled from there. I noted that while his heart was in the right place, that doesn't excuse the crapstorm he put me through after. I expressed to him that ignoring me really hurt. That him saying my rejection of his proposal was the reason for his embarrassment and shutdown was unfair, especially since we had already established for him not to do that. He accepted this and continued to apologize, admitting it was very unfair of him and that he should have handled his emotions and embarrassment better, especially toward me. We had a lull in our conversation after he asked, "Where do we go from here?" At this point, I didn't want to just return to normal. A day where I expressed to him that I felt the prettiest I had in a long time, expected us to have enormous fun, and watch our best friends have their moment to shine turned into a day where I was crying in my room reading Reddit comments about how I should break up with him. I genuinely thought I was the jerk who should have just bit the bullet and accepted a proposal in a way that I and others thought wasn't okay. I told him that if we were to move forward, he needed to seek a therapist to help him manage his emotions, not only from this, but other signs that he may have a panic disorder. My mom works for a mental health clinic and has offered resources before. I said that I needed time to rebuild my trust in him. He understood and is going to seek mental health resources through my mom's clinic. Until then, we'll be on a week or so break with an open channel of communication. He's going to find appropriate channels to better himself, and I'm going to take myself on a mini vacation after the emotional roller coaster that was this weekend. We did talk about what each other's ideal proposal was, something we should have talked about before the trigger was even pulled on it. I said that I didn't care for anything fancy. I just prefer it not to be public. He said that he wanted to make a grand showing of love to me and didn't care where or how. He asked if it was okay to have friends and family present or if that broke my public rule. I said that was fine and was happy with a communicative compromise. I also stated that I didn't want to be proposed to for a while so that we could let this situation rest and figure ourselves out from here. He accepted this. Something I thought was really sweet that I wanted to mention was that before he left, he said, "I do think I owe you some dancing." And so we slow danced in my living room for about a half hour until he left. A small and romantic action, probably to earn brownie points, but the conversation did reassure me that he's willing to try and be better. He recognized he was in the wrong and that a joyful day was robbed by pride and not rejection. This was about as ideal of an outcome as I'd hoped. Thank you all for taking time out of your days to reply and bring me back to earth. Thank you to those who messaged me in private to make sure I was okay or to give input. While the future is still obscure, it's a little clearer than it was a couple of days ago. I have a clearer understanding now of what I want and what's healthy. Moving forward, I will do every ounce of weighing before I enter what should be the most important commitment you can make to a person you love, and I'll keep a more careful eye on his behaviors and how he may react to adverse situations. I hope the best for you all, as many have for me. Thank you. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Finally, someone who actually talked it out as adults rather than just jumping to immediately discussing ending the relationship. I'm glad you guys made up and took proactive steps to actually mend the relationship. Commenter 2. So glad his dad essentially called him an idiot. Proposing at a wedding is tacky and selfish, most of all, lazy. You couldn't be asked to plan something, so why not steal someone else's planning an event? Happy to see communication win.